I'm going to give you a spoiler alert here.
Tell
Your
me.
breakthrough is not on the other side of the work. Your breakthrough is on the other side of surrender. That is not
Mm,
just for the entrepreneur's wife, that is for the entrepreneur.
on the other side of surrender.
I did not believe that I needed to submit, that I was going to submit. And then I started submitting to God. And that made it easy for me to submit to my husband. However, there is a difference between being living in submission and being boo boo the fool. So
Yeah.
again, I encourage women to get to acceptance, not because it's easy, but because if you want to be with this man, you have to start speaking up. Remember, people say, oh, I just want peace. Peace is not the absence of conflict.
Yeah.
It is the presence of justice. It is the presence of communication that allows you to truly know that you are operating on one accord. And if you are dealing with an entrepreneur spouse who is lying, who is hiding bills, who is putting your family in precarious circumstances, you have to be willing to challenge them on that in therapy,
Yep.
preferably, because many times they're doing that because they think if they just can get
Just.
over this hump, if
Yep.
they can just, so they're taking out all of this credit and they're mortgaging your children's future on their idea without your input. And many times we do know, we're not stupid. We see the mail. You guys get those USPS notifications. This is
Yeah.
coming. Well, why am I getting something from this financial company? You know why, sis. We're not going to be codependent. We're not going to hinge our worth on a man who is going to lie to us and steal from us and mortgage our family's future. But we are also not going to allow a spouse who is otherwise a good person to make decisions without our input and approval.
Right, right. So you had to do some things to protect your guys' marriage. You mentioned prayer, you mentioned counseling. Is there anything else that you did?
Absolutely. We set guardrails in place for the finances. I talked about this earlier. The rule is we do not apply for new credit without consulting each other at all. Credit report is locked. We do not commit ourselves to, and I want to say this very carefully because, again, business models look different. But if my spouse is committing in themselves to working with a person, I need to know that person because I have wisdom and discernment that the Spirit of God has given me. And there have been situations where I met people and I've been like, no, we're not working with that person.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, we were given as helpmates. And if we are going to build something together, I need to know that you value my input. And many entrepreneurs' wives feel marginalized and pushed to the edges. They feel as though they are truly being used because they get to exist in one space, and that space is to go to work and to get the money that actually supports the family, to go to the food bank, to apply for the grants, to try to make a dollar out of 15 cents, to call their parents and beg when the kids need school clothes.
Yeah.
What they feel their role is. That is not your role, sis.
Right, right.
If this is his business, this is your business. And you have to mind your business.
Yeah, yeah. Got to have an eye on what's going on.
An eye, an ear, and conversations.
Absolutely.
Because I always recommend the Gottman Method. If you're looking, I think every spouse of an entrepreneur should be in therapy. I recommend the Gottman Method because they
Absolutely.
talk about the horsemen of the apocalypse. They talk about the bitterness and the resentment. That is a marriage killer. And that is what happens when wives have not come to acceptance of what entrepreneurship really means. Because a lot of these women have mindsets that are focused on material things. And so what they think they are building is wealth. They want money. And if the money does not come, then they are attacking and devaluing and demeaning, and they are destroying their own home. So you have to be very clear on what entrepreneurship is and isn't and what the probabilities of it are. And you need to have these boundaries in place up front. I say for a lot of women, my husband has continued to make money because he has skills. So while he's not making the money he was making, he's making a reasonable amount of money.
That's good.
I mean, I can't say just go out and take any job because he's making more than he would taking any job,
Yeah.
you know? And so for some of these women, their spouses aren't making anything.
Yep.
And they won't go drive Uber. They won't go stock Amazon. They won't go
Yep.
stock grocery store shelves. They won't do anything because they believe that they have to chase their dream above everything.
Yeah.
And for them, I say those conversations have to be had with a qualified therapist, and boundaries need to be put in place. I'm going to give you 6 months. I'm going to give you 3 months at this point. It has been a year. Or get a job now, work for 2 years. We will live frugally. This will be our budget. We will move out to this place. We will go live in our parents' basement. We will save up this amount of money. And then I will give you a year to build this. If
Yeah.
you want to build something with a person, you have to make the decisions that allow you both to be comfortable with it.
And with what you said about counseling and the Gottman method, I think that it's good to reiterate that point whenever you're looking for a counselor. Ask them if they use the Gottman method whenever they are doing their counseling, because some counselors don't. And
Oh,
so,
absolutely.
yeah. So it's good to
Absolutely.
know what to look for when you're
And a lot of
looking for
people
that
don't.
counselor. Yeah.
But what I have also noticed is, and this is something I kind of touched on in the beginning, marital and couples counseling is being heavily influenced by Gottman now. Not every counselor that uses Gottman is the right counselor.
Yeah.
It is a very standard methodology because it works, but you have to be truthful with your spouse and your therapist about where you are. And if either one of them are triggered by the other, if your partner's not willing to do the work with this person, I've been in sessions where it's very clear that the therapist was on one of our sides, and that's not going to work. It's not going to help. Your therapist has to be a neutral arbiter.
Yeah. That's true. Very true.
And so when you're looking for a therapist, I recommend someone who has been doing the Gottman method for many years. Not someone who got their certificate in 2018 or not. Well, now we're in 2025. 2018 might be
I was
fine.
gonna say that.
I'm getting old. Not someone who got their certificate in 2022. Let's say that. Someone who has been doing it for many years, who has a track record of success, and who has worked with entrepreneurs. I say this, it is hard to find them. And in many cases, they do not bill insurance, and you may have to settle. So it is important to ask the questions. Are you able to maintain neutrality? How long have you been doing the Gottman method? Do you work with couples with severe income discrepancies? Have you worked with couples where a spouse has been unemployed for a long period of time? These are things that are very helpful because
Yeah.
even if they're not working with an entrepreneur, people fall into depression when they lose their careers, right? And they're
Right.
like,
Right.
as a CEO making $1.8 million, I'm not going to take this pansy job making $200,000. Meanwhile, their house is going into foreclosure.
Right. Those are some really good questions. Definitely not questions that I thought about in my mind. I just kind of read through the bios of the counselors and just kind of say, oh, this looks like this might be a good one. And we've had a couple of counselors, and the one we're working with now, she's been a great help to us. Definitely different. So yeah, those are some really good questions to ask. I'm glad that you brought that up. So were there any things that, because you talked about not saying certain things, not wanting to appear like the angry black woman to tear them down, is there anything that you can think of that you said that you wish you didn't say, and how did you come back and kind of recover from that, so to speak, or circle back
So
to
the Gottman
apologize?
method talks about repairs, how to reach in when you have overstepped. I have always had a philosophy that you cannot unring bells and certain words cannot be unsaid. So I'm always very careful when I say things. I don't think I've said anything that I would never, like I would not have said, but I have used a tone or language that made what I said ineffective, right?
Yeah.
So then I've had to do a repair and go in and say, I shouldn't have yelled. My husband is very sensitive to yelling. I shouldn't have yelled. I needed you to understand this. And the Gottman method talks about using I statements. I feel as though you do not value the work that I put in to try to maintain our home
Yeah.
when you say XYZ or when you do XYZ. And so for me, repairs were hard because, they say women don't take accountability. They say that. It's not true. It's not
It's not
true.
true. That's
Those are
right.
not
It's not true.
allegations. Categorically false. But repairs can be difficult when you know what you said was valid, but how you said it made it so that it could not be received and created a breach. That is the place for repair because the goal is not to get it off your chest. The goal is meaningful change, dialogue, and conversation.
So we've made it to this point in the episode, and you're still here with us. I truly believe that something was said in this conversation that spoke to you. And because of that, I encourage you to take a few moments to journal about what resonated in your mind and in your heart. Journaling can be such a powerful form of self-care and clarity. And I would love to help you with that. Simply send me an email to realtalkswithjanelle@gmail.com and I'll send a journal prompt directly to your inbox. Now, let's get back to the conversation. That's very, very true. Very true. Now, have you ever said to him the words, maybe you shouldn't be an entrepreneur?
In so many words, I've said it at least half a dozen times, because I also am a historian, I'm into market economics, and I kind of saw what we're experiencing right now where the job market contracted extremely tight right now. It's very difficult to get jobs. There are hiring freezes across industries. Only top talent really is moving right now. And so a couple of years ago, I told him this was coming. And I said, you should start looking for a job. You should get into a job. And I pushed and I pushed and I pushed until I had to, come back to acceptance and recognize that this was going to be his decision and that I have two choices, right? I have only two choices because the only person I can control is myself.
That's right.
I can accept this and build my life around the income or lack thereof that we're going to have, or I can leave him. Those are my choices because I only control myself.
Yeah, yeah. You said something to me. You shared that for many men, entrepreneurship isn't a job, it's their identity. What do you wish you knew sooner about that reality that would probably change the way you showed up and supported him today?
I would say this because now I understand that entrepreneurship is part of identity because I've never considered being an attorney part of my identity. It's what I do. It's not who I am,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
I did not understand that. And when you're dealing with identity, it's very similar to dealing with a belief system. And if you know anything, you recognize that facts cannot change belief systems. We've been seeing it happen all around us in the world where facts are fully subverted or ignored and belief systems become what people make their decisions by. Entrepreneurs, unfortunately, because it is part of their identity, they will ignore facts. They will ignore the evidence of their eyes. They will ignore the truth of their financial circumstances, of their partner's mental health, of their children's stability, because they believe that who they are is bound up in entrepreneurship. And so they simply have to make it. And they have to make it in many cases their way. There are some entrepreneurs that are bound and stuck to one idea and some that are stuck to entrepreneurship. There's not a one size fits all on this, but entrepreneurship is both a mindset and an identity. And when someone has made it part of their identity, because again, you can make anything a part of your identity. I'm sure that there are people for whom not being able to be a lawyer anymore would be tantamount to killing them. My identity is in Jesus Christ. So that does not compute to me. But I think it changes the way you have conversations because you can't come in with facts. You can't come in with, well, these are our bills. You can't come in with, look, it's been 18 months. You have to come in with, I know and I understand how important this is to you, but I need you to see me. You have to appeal to the part of their identity that existed before the entrepreneurship.
Yeah, yeah. That's
You
true.
have to another belief system because they may believe they're a good husband and a good father just this much more than they believe that they're an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So, it makes me think about belief and faith, having faith of the size of a mustard seed. How do you feel that compares to the entrepreneur that is striving to get there? And for us, it's not getting there as quickly as we would like it to. What's your thoughts about that?
I don't think any entrepreneur gets where they think they're going to get as quickly as they thought they would get there. Now, we read about these success stories in, the Entrepreneurial Times, whatever magazine, there are tons of them. And I've seen people get venture capital funding right out of undergrad, and that's great. But that's more about who you know than what you're doing, if you get my drift. And you use the word striving. And I want to be clear that there is a mindset, and I talked about this, the hustle mindset, the grind mindset,
Yeah.
that believes that you can work your way to this level of security. The word of God is very clear. If you are a Christ follower, I love Isaiah 30:15. This is what the sovereign Lord, the Holy One of Israel says, only in returning to me and in resting will you be saved. In quietness and confidence is your strength. If you are a person of faith, and if you are married to an entrepreneur, and I tell my husband this all the time because we've undergone a shift since I've gotten to acceptance. I feel like he's less anxious because he does not feel constant disapproval coming from me. When you're married to
That's
someone,
good.
they know how you feel.
That's good. Yeah.
So if they feel like you're stressed, you're anxious, you're insecure about what's going on, if they make any part of their identity being a good spouse, right, they're also going to be anxious
Yeah.
and stressed and put upon. And part of that, with that comes striving. With that comes incessant work. And if you've ever seen someone who is doing something that's futile, right? Like they're not having any success with it. The harder they work, the worse it looks sometimes because they may not be putting their efforts in the right direction. So, for entrepreneurs, spouses, and for entrepreneurs of faith, I say this: it is so important to step back, go all the way back to Proverbs 16. Commit your plans to the Lord and he will establish them. If you are not sleeping, if you are not observing your Sabbath rest, if you are not caring for the temple that God gave you, if you are not tithing because you think you don't have enough money, baby, throw the whole thing in the trash.
But Naomi, so here's the thing though. You know how in church, and I know with your book, you talk about codependency and, how some of the thoughts and mindsets that are planted in us from religion. And that's so very true because I'm thinking about how there are, it's preached, it's spoken about, you're in a tough time now, don't give up because your breakthrough is on the other side, you
Yeah.
know?
But what is your breakthrough on the other side of? You haven't gotten far enough in the book.
Yeah, I haven't because I'm in a book club right now, and once I'm doing that book
We're on a
club,
different one. Yeah.
then I'm gonna get into yours. Yeah.
I'm going to give you a spoiler alert here.
Tell
Your
me.
breakthrough is not on the other side of the work. Your breakthrough is on the other side of surrender. That is not
Mm.
just for the entrepreneur's wife, that is for the entrepreneur.
On the other side of surrender.
We have to stop trying to control the jump. God is going to do what God is going to do. So you have to, I had to surrender that I can't control my husband. I can't manipulate him. I can't silent treatment him. I can't not pay the bills him into going out and getting a job. It's not going to happen. And he has to surrender the fact that he can work 16 hours a day for 10 years and never see any success, or he can submit and surrender his will to the Lord and do what God told him to do. Because in many cases, they're tied to an idea that looks financially feasible, and God is telling them to do something else. God is telling them to go out and borrow some jars and pour some olive oil in them. And they're
Yeah.
like, God,
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. Because they may be called entrepreneurship, but entrepreneurship looks like a lot of different things.
Right. I agree. I totally agree. I'm gonna just kind of put this book back in the view because although I haven't started reading it yet, I definitely, Naomi has said some really good things, and I believe that if you purchase this book, you're going to get some great insight and revelation, as she has already shared. Her book, or her devotional, rather, For His Glory, Disclosing and Destroying the Spiritual Roots of Codependency. And as you mentioned, a lot of people don't know what that means, and so it's going to be a great insight for a lot of people that purchase that book. Naomi, how can they get that book?
The book is available on my website at www.howthenumber2chick.com. And I'm actually running a special I'm actually going to run a special for followers of the podcast where they will get 20% off, and Janelle will put that code in the show notes. If you are international and you need a copy of the book, it is available on Amazon. I do not recommend ordering it from Amazon. It's a little bit more expensive, but if you are international, you must, because right now we cannot ship internationally.
Okay. So, Naomi, your motto is you can do anything, but you can't do everything. Tell us a little bit about that before we close out.
So, for many of us, and I'm an oldest daughter, so a managing type of person, we've spent our whole lives doing for other people what they should be doing for themselves. And codependency is a pattern that starts very early where our sense of worth, our identity, our stability, our comfort, right, depends on managing, rescuing, and ensuring the comfort of those around us. And we create a dynamic by which we consistently have to function at higher and higher levels, and they continue under functioning or even function lower. And the needs of our need to be needed, right, is more than our need to show up for ourselves and to live in the life that we are supposed to live in. Whereas the other person is just existing for us to care for them. And so I would say choosing wisely for me has always been about recognizing I am a God girl unapologetically. I say this on my podcast, and I want to remind people that Ephesians 2:10 says that God created good works for each of us to work in before we were even born. And for many women, especially Black women, especially entrepreneurs' wives, we have accepted these roles because we are so accustomed to caring for other people, to the denigration, to the subjugation of our own needs, our
Yeah.
own goals, and our own desires. And so you can do all these things, but you cannot do them all at the same time and still show up for yourself. That's what that means. You have to choose wisely. You have to choose yourself.
You
And
know,
this,
so many,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, so many women are going into entrepreneurship themselves.
Hmm.
Listening to what you're saying about doing all the things, excuse me, and choosing wisely, what are your thoughts about that? Do you think that it's an add-on of just still trying to do too much to make things comfortable for others?
Going into entrepreneurship is not that. And I feel that in many cases, women are more successful entrepreneurs because they plan. The statistics and research show Black women won't apply for a job unless they are 85 to 90% qualified based
Right.
on the role description.
Yep.
White men, it's as low as 20%. Black men, it's 50 to 60%. White women, they'll apply somewhere between 60 and 75%. So if women are pivoting into entrepreneurship, as we can see, the market is hostile to women right now. Many women are being pushed out of the marketplace. Many women are not able to afford childcare, so they're
Right.
starting at-home businesses. That is also entrepreneurship. They tend to do better. Why? Because they are so used to operating with both sides of their brains and doing everything.
Yeah.
So I don't believe that saying you cannot do everything applies specifically to entrepreneurship. But I think that if you are going into this business, you are going to have to set some boundaries around your time,
Yes.
around your resources, around your energy. Your kids are going to have to be trained to do chores. Your spouse is going to have to be trained to come in from his job and take on a second shift. And this is how women burn out.
Yeah.
They don't set boundaries with their families, and they think, I can run this business, I can do the homeschooling, I can keep up with everything that I'm doing, and you can't. So when I say choose wisely, I'm talking about boundaries. And that's what my book is about, because women do it, but you will pay.
Your
And the
mental health,
question
your
is,
physical health,
oh yeah,
emotional.
absolutely. It's in the book. Physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, it's all intertwined.
Yeah.
And when you do not recognize where your limits are, your body will set the limit for you.
For sure, for sure. So for you and self-care, we talked about boundaries. What are one of your go-to self-care measures, and what does that look like? Like, take us through that journey of self-care for you.
Self-care is not shopping, chocolate, baths, wine, girls' trips. Self-care is making sure my physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health are in balance. My self-care looks like a walking pad that I keep under my desk so I get my steps in. My self-care looks like ensuring that I have my appointment with my therapist on Friday. It is calendared. I do not schedule that time, and it is during the day. Why? Because my self-care is also ensuring that I have time to attend my coaching sessions that I have once a week. My self-care is going home and journaling and having a nightly practice by which I leave what I have carried with me all day before I go to sleep. I don't go to sleep thinking about my job. I don't go to sleep scrolling social media. I do, but only for cleaning videos and pimple popping videos, because that cleans my brain. Don't judge me. Don't judge me. Don't judge me. But my self-care routines, so people are like, oh, you do this, you do that. Acceptance has meant for me, I do my own hair most of the time. Acceptance has meant for me that I do get my nails done, but that's because I'm a biter. That I don't spend a whole lot of money. That's actually self-care for me,
Yeah.
because the spending will give me anxiety
Yes.
with what I'm doing.
Yep.
But when I went to therapy for this a couple of years ago, because I needed a new pair of shoes. And my mother trained me from young, you don't buy pleather shoes, just buy the leather shoes, buy a quality pair of shoes. And long story short, there was a pair of shoes I wanted. The shoes were comfortable, the shoes were nice, the shoes were appropriate work shoes. I really wanted these shoes, but these shoes were like a couple $100. And I was like, I cannot spend this money on these shoes. And my therapist had to walk me through why I would not do it. And I bought the shoes
Okay.
at the end of 2 sessions. I'm not going to go into everything we went through, but I think it's also important to recognize that you prioritize everyone else on this list. You do not have to be at the top. This is what spiritual trauma does to us, though. The word of God says, esteem others more highly than yourselves. The word of God does not say, do not esteem yourself. You need to be on the list.
Yeah.
The word of God says, love your neighbor as yourself. If you don't love you, you cannot love anyone else. And so self-care for me looks like making sure I'm on the list. If I must have something, I have to assess why I must have it.
Yeah.
I don't just pull out the credit card no, I take some time, I think about it, I pray about it, I may talk about it with my husband. But if I cannot leave it alone, I do it. And I find a way, right, to budget and make it happen. It may be, right, that we have a couple weeks of vegan meals. That's okay, we needed to cleanse.
I
It's
like that
like,
mindset.
yeah, y'all gonna eat some chickpeas and like it.
Yeah.
You'll be all right.
And it's
At
good
the
for you.
It is good for you, and it's good to you. Like, honey, I can cook. Okay, y'all need to get on not TikTok. Those recipes are not real recipes, and you will waste ingredients. But I spent a lot of time on foodtv.com. You can just Google the ingredients you have in your pantry and put together a meal. Like, at the end of the day, self-care means I'm making sure everything is in alignment, and that does include my finances. And I think for a lot of women, the self-care that this market this culture puts out actually results in increased mental health issues because
Yes,
it causes debt.
absolutely. I agree. Totally.
And so
Totally.
living this lifestyle has shown me what real self-care actually is because I'm okay. I don't miss that stuff.
Yeah.
Like I would not even have this conversation with you if I were over here feeding to go on a girls trip and go have brunch. I'm not. I'm fine.
Right. That's good. That's good. So you've shared so much wisdom and grace in this conversation. What are you most proud about as far as about the woman that you've become through this whole journey of being the wife of an entrepreneur? Not just about being, the mom, but just in totality as a woman. What are you proud about Naomi?
I am proud of the growth that I have been able to submit to in this period. I am proud that I have allowed myself
Yeah.
to be who I am. I am proud that I did start my podcast, that I did write my book, that I did, when I was asked, I did say yes to becoming an elder. Now, don't get me wrong, I said no the first 3 times, but the Holy Spirit would not leave me. I'm proud that I have listened to God.
Good. Yeah.
That's what I'm proud of
Yeah.
because as I have done that, I have recognized that the path that he has me on is a path that other women, one, need to see. And two, it is the path that is going to be salvation for my family. Because a lot of us are praying prayers, but we're not doing what God is asking us to do. And we can't see why. But it's because we're operating in presumption. We're waiting for God to do a thing before we'll do the thing he asked us to do.
That's
And
good.
so in this process, in this past just 2 years, really, I've stopped waiting and I've started obeying, and it's changed my life.
That's good. I really like that. And congratulations to you on all the accomplishments. The name of this podcast, again, is Real Talks with an Entrepreneur's Wife. And the tagline is what I wish or what you wish you knew sooner. What is something that you believe you wish you knew sooner that you can share with the audience that maybe they should implement or take into consideration today?
Have the hard conversations, but have them well. Get a therapist early, make sure they understand and are versed in the Gottman Method, and learn what self care is to you. Acceptance with the decisions of the life that you're living and not the life that you imagine you'll be living if everything works out is key.
Yes.
And those steps will help you get there. Caring for your mental health, your spiritual health, your emotional health, your physical health, being in therapy so that you can have the hard conversations in a way that is productive and actually moves the needle on your relationships,
Right.
and just making sure that you are okay. That's part of that self care piece. What do I need right now? Sometimes we're afraid to leave a job. We're afraid to start something because we don't want to make waves. And obedience, honoring who we are, is also so important to this process. Because remember, we are not just building wealth,
Yeah.
we are building legacy. So if you are married to an entrepreneur, it's not just about the money, and it never was.
That's so good. Now, you mentioned your podcast. I do want you to share with the audience how can they find you and hear more of what you have going on and the wisdom and knowledge that you're sharing. What's the name of your podcast? How can they find you?
So I am at the how dash to chick on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. I go live on Wednesday nights. I have not moved all of my stuff to the podcast platforms. I was on there and have taken some stuff down because I was rebranding. I have not gotten it back up. I
Okay.
will hopefully be on all podcast platforms by January. My book, For His Glory, Disclosing and Destroying the Spiritual Roots of Codependency, is available at my website, which is www.thehow2chick.com/glory. I
So,
no longer coach, but my podcast, my Wisdom Wednesdays is what I call them, is
okay.
where I share the information that I've gained over the years. And I also do series. that people can search by. I have a series on codependency, and I have a series on capacity that I did this year that I think many women would benefit from, just understanding why and where they lack capacity to do the things they want to do. It'll take them right back to codependency in most cases.
Yeah. Definitely some hard revelations to some extent that you have to come to with yourself in order to be successful as an entrepreneur's wife. You know, the understanding the codependency. Why do I feel the way that I feel? What are the past informations that have been passed on to me that have me believing the way that I believe and not want to say the things that I want to say, and how can I get there so that we can have a successful relationship? Because again, you know, we don't go into relationships to have to end them. Our desire is to be in them for a long term, and we absolutely want women and men that so desire to be together, but we understand too that not everybody is designed to be together even after they've gotten together. So definitely check out Naomi's book and her podcast and her website, and glean some information for yourself. I want to say thank you to everyone that has taken the time to listen in on this episode of Real Talks with an Entrepreneur's Wife. I encourage you to leave a comment in the comment section. If you have any questions, leave that there too. I'm sure people will be able to chime in, and I'm more than happy to reach out to you as well. Like, subscribe, share the content. There's so many women out there that are suffering in silence, and they need to know that they are not alone. So until next time, thank you again for joining us on Real Talks with an Entrepreneur's Wife podcast. Until next time, bye.